gone down to Washington, D.C. as a teenager. I knew I was pregnant, but no one else knew. I wasn't quite sure how far along I was, but I knew that I was pregnant. It was early July. I had gone down to D.C. because I felt like I could go down there and hide with my grandparents. I felt that they weren't going to be suspicious about me being pregnant. I figured that they just weren't smart enough to figure it out. Silly me. My grandmother took me clothes shopping the day after I arrived. And when we went shopping, I remember her insisting on sitting in the changing room with me, which was weird because she had never done that before. I had been shopping with my grandmother before I could walk. And it was always go in the room, change your clothes, come out, and model. But now I know why, because she was suspicious and wanted to get a glimpse of my stomach. The day after I arrived in DC, and after we had gone shopping, my grandmother said to me, "Pack your bags, you're going home." And I was stunned because I had just arrived and I was confused. And I kept asking why, and she just kept telling me, "Your mother wants you to come home." And I couldn't for the life of me figure out why. But like normal, I got on the train and went home. And almost as soon as I walked through the door, I remember my mother asking me, "Are you pregnant?" And I was so caught off guard, completely caught off guard, because I thought I had done a good job at hiding this. So at this point, it was just time to fess up. And I said yes. So the next morning, we got up, went to the OBGYN. They asked me how far along I thought I was, and I told them about 5 or 6 months. And at this point, they said, "Well, there's really nothing we can do. You're going to have this baby." Now, let me backtrack just a little bit. I had just graduated from high school in June, and my big graduation gift was a trip to Europe. My mother and I were going to Europe for 3 weeks. We were going to Paris, Nice, Geneva, Switzerland, Venice, and Bologna. So after leaving the doctor's office, we did what we normally do. We went to go get something to eat. And it was at that moment my mom said, "Well, what are we going to do?" And all I could think was, "We're going on this trip." And she just looked at me and she said, "You're crazy." And I said, "I know, but we are going on this trip. And when we come back, I will have the baby and life will go on." So off we went on July the 10th. We flew to Paris. We ate delicious food. My mom would get up in the morning before I was awake. She would go explore the city and then come back and get me, and off we would go. We went to museums, we would go to restaurants, we would go shopping, and at this point, we were buying clothes for the baby. We did not know if it was a boy or a girl, but we were buying clothes. We walked along the streets in Venice. We did not get in a gondola because my mom did not want me to fall into the water. On the 3rd of August, we returned to the United States. And by this time, I am really pregnant. Pregnant. The next plan was to go to Philadelphia and live with my father until my daughter was born. So on August the 3rd, we packed up everything. I hopped in my dad's car and we were off to Philadelphia. All was going great. As we were driving, all of a sudden, I felt a gush of water. And I didn't know what to say to my dad at that time. And I looked at him and kind of said, "Dad, I feel like a gush of water." And he was like, no, pregnant women feel like that all the time. You're fine." And I asked him, "How many times have you been a pregnant woman?" So I asked him to pull over, and we pulled over at a truck stop. This is 1989, so we didn't have any cell phones. We got some quarters, and we called my mom, and I remember telling her, "I think I'm going into labor. I think my water just broke." And my mom is a very calm person, and she was very calm. And I remember saying, "Well, okay, it's going to be fine. Put your father on the phone." I put him on the phone, And I remember hearing her yell, telling him to take her straight to the hospital. Next thing you know, it was a little bit before midnight on August the 4th when I went into active labor, and Kia was born the morning of August the 5th. And I remember calling my mom and her hopping on the train and coming on down to Philadelphia. They would take all the babies down to the nursery, and you could go upstairs for a nice kind of candlelight dinner with your significant other. Well, at this point, my significant other was my mother. So we sat down and I ordered lobster, and I think my mom had lobster. 2 weeks later, I left for college, and my mom and my father became Kia's caretaker while I was going to school in New Orleans.